Short on time. Flashback Flicks has your favorite movies covered. Subscribe and start watching now. Get ready to solve mysteries with Scoob, where Scooby-Doo and the gang face their biggest adventure yet. Join them as they uncover a plot to unleash a ghostly dog apocalypse, testing their friendship and teamwork in this fun-filled, action-packed journey. The film begins in the 90s, where a Great Dane puppy steals a rack of gyros from a shop. As the chase ensues, he is pursued by a police officer and ends up coming across a lonely little boy, Norville Shaggy. In an act of kindness, Shaggy shares his sandwich with the puppy, who adds some of the gyro meat to it. Soon after, the officer finds the dog and asks Shaggy if it's his and what his name is. On the spot, he names the dog Scooby-Doo, and the officer leaves. From that moment on, Shaggy brings Scooby home, where he gifts him his trademark collar. From then on, the two become the best of friends. Fast forward to Halloween night, Shaggy and Scooby dress up as their heroes, the Blue Falcon and Dynomutt. While out trick-or-treating, they pass a spooky house and get harassed by bullies who throw their candy into the house. Not long after, they meet a trio of friends, Fred Jones, Daphne Blake, and Velma Dinkley. As a group, they decide to go inside the house together, where they come across what appears to be a ghost. Things quickly escalate when the kids are trapped in the house until Fred and Velma spot the string holding the ghost up, and they cut him loose. Afterward, they unmask him as localman Mr. Rigby, who is also stashing stolen store products. Following his capture, he is arrested and blames his misfortune on those meddling kids. At that point, the four friends and Scooby all then vow to continue solving mysteries together as Mystery Incorporated. Later on, we catch up with the gang as adults in a restaurant. Fred, Daphne, and Velma want to take Mystery Inc. to new heights as a serious company. Meanwhile, Scooby and Shaggy are content just eating big sandwiches. Then, the others bring out their potential investor, Simon Cowell, just before the rest of the gang gets down to business. Despite initial enthusiasm, Simon is impressed with Fred's leadership, Velma's smarts, and Daphne's style, but he thinks Scooby and Shaggy are the weak links, and he can't invest in Mystery Incorporated. Feeling dejected, Scooby and Shaggy ditch the gang. Next, the guys head to their favorite bowling alley where they lament the feeling that they are considered useless among the gang. Out of nowhere, they are attacked when the pins and balls turn into deadly little robots called Rottens. As the chaos unfolds, they chase Scooby and Shaggy around the place until they end up in the back of the alley and are sucked up into the sky by a spacecraft. Meanwhile, Fred, Velma, and Daphne are driving back feeling bad about Scooby and Shaggy before they overhear the police scanner talking about the bowling alley incident, and they rush over there. Back in the spacecraft, Scooby and Shaggy find themselves inside the Falcon Fury, Blue Falcon superjet. Upon entering, they are greeted by DD Skis and are brought up to meet Blue Falcon himself. However, Dynomutt comes out to reveal that it's actually Blue Falcon's adult son, Brian, who has taken over his dad's position after he retired. However, Dynomutt clearly feels like he is working with an amateur. Amid this revelation, DD tells the guys that the robots were sent by the fiendish Dick Dastardly, who is seeking out the three skulls of Cerberus, the ancient three-headed dog, but nobody knows for what purpose. They also don't know why the robots were going after Scooby and Shaggy. Suddenly, Dastardly and his minions attack the Fury, but DD manages to get them away by flying them out of there in hyperdrive. In the aftermath, Brian suggests that Scooby and Shaggy stick around for the mission so that they may be able to stop Dastardly. Meanwhile, Fred, Daphne, and Velma talk to the lady at the bowling alley about the incident and are given one of the robots that got crushed and left behind. Upon inspection, Velma finds one of Dastardly's hairs on it. After further analysis, the gang learns of Dastardly and his mission to collect the skulls. As they process this information, they head off to find their friends. Velma also learns that Dastardly has been going through a database of dogs and that the reason he wants Scooby is because he is the last descendant of Peritas, dog of Alexander the Great, and that he could be the key to something big. Without delay, Fred then drives them toward Dastardly demolition so that they might be able to find Dastardly himself. Back at the Fury, Brian says he got the location of the second skull from an anonymous fan. Upon arriving, they find themselves at an amusement park, only to discover that Dastardly is already there and that he's gotten the skull. Soon after, he sends his Rottens after the heroes. During the chase, Dastardly makes it clear that he has no interest in Shaggy and blasts him through the wall before trying to get Scooby. In an intense moment, the dog runs into a house of mirrors, but Dastardly finds him and tries to convince him of his great destiny. However, Scooby gets away with help from Dynomutt, and the heroes return to the Fury before losing Dastardly from their tails. Unbeknownst to them, the robot that the gang is holding reactivates and alerts Dastardly to its whereabouts. Back with the gang, Fred's shortcut is interrupted when they are pulled over by an attractive officer, who turns out to be Dastardly in disguise. In a sudden turn of events, he uses the Rottens to kidnap the gang and also pull the mystery machine into his ship. Afterward, they are imprisoned aboard but manage to free themselves when they find a Rotten whose head was pulled off and replaced with a dust vacuum. In a moment of ingenuity, Daphne gives it a clean head, and it joins their side. Overhearing Dastardly's plans, they learn of his next move to Messick Mountain, where the third skull is located. Meanwhile, the other heroes start treating Scooby as more essential to the mission, which leaves Shaggy feeling left out. Adding to this, Scooby even gets a costume, which means having to take off his beloved collar. At the same time, Velma manages to hack into Dynomutt's system to deliver a message to DD about heading to Messick Mountain. However, Dastardly catches the gang and cuts off their connection. Daphne then asks him about the dog that he has a shrine to, Muttley. In response, Dastardly reveals his true intentions. He and Muttley were trying to open the portal to the underworld to steal the treasures from there, but he made Muttley go in alone, and although he was able to enter, he couldn't come out since he was not the key. As a result, Muttley remained trapped in the underworld, and Dastardly is trying to get him back. Following this revelation, he has the Rottens re-imprison Velma and Daphne before taking Fred for himself. Soon after, the heroes arrive on Messick Mountain and enter Mystery Island, but they leave Shaggy behind on the Fury, and he shows clear resentment towards Scooby. During their exploration, they meet Captain Caveman. In a dramatic turn, he is keeping the third skull and challenges the gang to fight him to take it. Despite their efforts, he wipes the floor with Brian, but they are supposedly saved when Shaggy arrives with what appears to be Fred having driven the mystery machine to the ship. However, this turns out to be Dastardly in disguise, and he knocks Captain Caveman out to grab the skull and Scooby. In a heartfelt moment, Shaggy reunites with his friends and feels responsible for Scooby getting captured. He gives a rousing speech to the gang, plus Brian, DD, and Dynomutt, and they all agree to go save Scooby together. As the climax approaches, Dastardly puts the skulls together and opens the portal to the underworld, transforming the town into an ancient appearance. Just as the heroes close in, he has the Rottens attack them, but Dynomutt stops the mystery machine from crashing as it's blown out of the sky. Meanwhile, Dastardly uses Scooby's paw to open the gates and unleash Cerberus. In a panic, Dastardly realizes his mistake and runs from the giant but then runs back through the gates to find Muttley. Initially, Muttley appears dead, but the rascal was just joking, and the two villains proceed to pilfer the treasures. In the aftermath, Scooby frees his friends from the busted mystery machine, but Fred is distraught at the loss of the beloved van. With renewed determination, they proceed to plan to get Cerberus back through the gates. In a surprising twist, the good Rotten rounds up his friends, and they join the gang in their plan. At that point, Brian decides to pull off his big hero moment by saving Scooby from Cerberus by punching the heads repeatedly. The Rottens turn into bowling balls while the others distract Cerberus and trip him up, sending him rolling back into the underworld. Fred then takes out a clue he stole from Dastardly's ship, which Velma reads and determines means that only Scooby and Shaggy can close the portal, but there's a catch. One of them has to stay behind in the underworld to keep it closed. Scooby and Shaggy try to stop one another from making the sacrifice, but ultimately, Shaggy decides to do it. They close the portal, but Scooby is sad at losing his best friend. The others comfort him until they realize that Alexander the Great did come up with a way to see his friend again. A statue of Alexander and Peritas appears with an inscription he created. Scooby reads it and reopens the portal. Cerberus kicks Shaggy out and returns him to Scooby, where they embrace, and Shaggy gives Scooby his collar back. The Rottens then turn on Dastardly and Mudley, giving them to Brian and Dee Dee to take into custody. In the end, the gang opens up a mystery ink shop to expand their business, and Brian presents them with a brand new mystery machine. They get a call for another mystery and head off on their next big case. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to like, subscribe to Flashback Flicks, and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for joining us, and keep the adventure alive.